Tonight, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, a former Harvard professor herself, is calling on the school to cut ties with the former university president and current faculty member Larry Summers. That's because Senator Warren says that Summers cannot be trusted, that's her quote, after new details emerged regarding his close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. All of this revealed in last week's release of Epstein's private emails. Larry Summers served as Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary, and in Barack Obama's administration, he was the director of the National Economic Council. These new emails revealed comments that Summers made as he also sought out dating advice from Jeffrey Epstein. That includes the morning of March 17th, 2019. Let's see these emails here where Summers and Epstein were exchanging multiple emails debating Summers and whether or not he should send a note to a romantic interest. Epstein argued to Summers that it would be, quote, bad form. Summers wrote back, quote, why bad form? Supposed to be face to face? To which Epstein replied, you care very much for this person. You might want to demonstrate that. A note does the very opposite. Now, the reason that exchange is notable and that we're pointing it out is because of when it happened. It was just 4 months before that exchange that the Miami Herald had published an exhaustive investigation detailing Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of underage girls. They continued to communicate, though, for the next several months. That includes on July 5th, 2019, when Larry Summers sent Jeffrey Epstein an update from his vacation on Cape Cod. The next day, July 6, 2019, was when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested for sex trafficking crimes. Now, tonight, Larry Summers told CNN in a statement that he is going to continue to teach at Harvard, but he will be stepping back from his other public commitments, saying in a statement that he takes full responsibility for the misguided decision to continue communicating with Mr. Epstein. My political sources tonight are Democratic strategist Alencia Johnson and Republican strategist David Urban. And obviously, you know, it's worth noting, Alencia, that Senator Warren and Larry Summers have clashed before in the past over policy issues and whatnot. But her saying, you know, this is someone who is very involved in Democratic politics, was reportedly going to be very involved in them doing a version of Project 2025 for Democrats. She's saying that the school needs to cut ties with him entirely. Do you agree with her?
I absolutely do agree with her, and not just because I worked for her in her presidential primary, but because, as you explained, the timing of this. It's one thing if Larry Summers was communicating with Jeffrey Epstein before the big investigation from the Miami Herald, but it's another, and he said he didn't know about it because there have been instances of that, right? Someone is charged for an egregious crime and people around him don't know anything about it. But this was very public. It was all over our national news. People in politics were paying attention to it and deep diving because of his ties to a lot of political figures. And so it is problematic that he remained in contact with him. And we don't see any evidence of him even acknowledging how wrong Jeffrey Epstein was. And so I agree with Senator Warren because if we think about his involvement, not only in Democratic politics, he is also a teacher at Harvard. And there are probably young women in his class. And I would be concerned about, you know, whether or not he has the integrity to continue to be in those positions. I'm not going to sit here and say anything's going to happen to his students, but it is concerning that you would be okay with someone who has these accusations and you still continue to be involved in a teaching capacity.
So you think what he's doing tonight doesn't go far enough because he says he is still going to be teaching?
I don't think it goes far enough. I don't think we should continue to reward bad behavior, or even when you're trying to turn a blind eye to maintain a position of power.
Yeah. And David Urban, this all comes as we're seeing the ramifications of these emails far and wide. I mean, obviously, Stacey Plaskett, another Democrat, was also texting with Jeffrey Epstein during the Michael Cohen hearing. Apparently, a spokesperson for her confirmed that she was getting text messages from him that influenced her questioning, it appears. But David, this is also coming as for Republicans, for your party, there is a huge breakup underway between Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene. In part, she's criticized how they've handled the Jeffrey Epstein saga and this entire back and forth over the discharge petition. She was one of those 4 votes that came out initially and voted for this. When the president saying that she's a traitor and Marjorie Taylor Greene, as he called her, what do you make of that? Do you think that's all right, or do you think that's too far?
Yeah, it's too far, obviously. Let me just say this. I don't think I've ever said these words before. I agree with Senator Warren, right? Like, I agree with Senator Warren and Alencia. I think that Larry Summers has to go. That not only was it his judgment very bad there, but this was a young woman who was a mentee texting or emailing back and forth with Epstein about. And moreover, her father was a member of the Chinese Communist Party, so most likely he was getting played as an asset during this whole thing. So it's only the tip of the iceberg with the Larry Summers issue. But yeah, look, Marjorie Taylor Greene, like her, don't like her, love her, hate her. She campaigned for Donald Trump when very few people were. She was out there burning, burning and churning when, after January 6th, and Donald Trump was a lonely soldier. She was a soldier, foot soldier in the Trump war, fighting for him every step and every way. So I think it's a little harsh for him to say what he did about her. Look, I don't necessarily agree with her all the time on this vote. I think, bad news doesn't get better with age. If I were the White House, I'd have released it a long, long time ago and moved on quickly to something different. It's like a bad PR move, it seems to me. I'm not quite sure
David,
who or what they're trying to protect, but it's never getting better.
Well, that's what I mean. I was talking to people who are allies of Trump's and White House officials who were saying they kind of did this to themselves because they could have just come out and supported this from the beginning instead of, they brought Lauren Boebert into this Situation Room to try to get her to change her mind last week. So it's not like they really get a lot of credit for this passing. I mean, it passed despite their efforts, not because of them.
Yeah, listen, I consider myself a huge supporter of the president's. I can tell you in 2016, when I signed up to support Donald Trump, you could fit everybody in a room, in a tiny room that was supporting Donald Trump. And so I just think this was mishandled from the get-go. I'm not quite sure why. Just get the information out. People campaigned on it. The president campaigned on it. Others did as well. The president and Republicans feel that they were, that for too long the mighty and powerful have been protected in this country, and this president campaigned on making sure there was equal and fair justice for everybody, the rich as well as the poor, and this feels a little counter to that. It feels like that someone's being protected that might not be worthy of that protection, as you see in these Larry Summer emails.
Yeah, and Alencia, just seeing this, Mike Johnson was asked about this, the calling her a traitor. It is something that was unfathomable. After January 6th, there were very few Republicans who still vocally supported the president publicly. Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of them. And so to see this split has even shocked a lot of people inside their orbit.
Listen, I am all about people redeeming themselves and changing their opinion, but I believe in, as the good book says, you judge a person by their fruit. And so we have to see how Marjorie Taylor Greene continues to move forward, and also if she atones for a lot of the egregious things that not only she said, but supported, like January 6th and some of the things that she didn't hold Donald Trump accountable for. And so we have to see where she continues to be on this path, because she's talking a great game right now, but who knows what's going to happen when something else happens that comes out of this White House.
Yeah, Dana Bash had a really good interview with her on Sunday and brought up some of her past statements and whatnot. And she did ask for, or said that she regretted some of those things. Alencia, stand by. David,
she went on the View. She went on the View. How much better can she pleading for forgiveness?
Listen, we got to continue to see more of this from Marjorie Taylor Greene, because some of the things that she has done and said has, quite frankly, harmed a lot of people. And so we'll see. Judge a person by their fruits.